guys, welcome to episode 7 of In the Virtual Garden with Mrs. Bowers. Today we are going to be talking about microgreens. Now for 7th and 8th grade, we did attempt microgreens. Depending on what class you're in, we had some issues usually every year with microgreens, but we're going to try again this year. I've done some extra research, so I'm hoping to take care of some of the issues. Issues that we had were, we had some rodent issues one of the years. We had some old mold issues some of the years. So the rodent issues are taken care of because I'm at my house. And as far as the mold, we will take care of that because mold likes areas that are going to be excessively warm and also do not have good airflow. So I'm going to make sure to take care of that in the spot that we are going to leave these microgreens. So let's go to the topic of microgreens. So the definition of a microgreen is basically that they are the juvenile plants that have their starter leaves. And their starter leaves are actually called a certain term that you already know back from seed anatomy, and that term is cotyledons. So microgreens are juvenile plants. They call them the toddlers of plants. They're not sprouts. They're actually older than that, and they're not considered something called baby greens. So they are the juveniles of the toddler plants that have their starter leaves, which are known as the cotyledons, because the cotyledons eventually turn into the baby leaves. Okay, so take a look. This is our basil plants that we had planted before, so they're still pretty short. They're not quite yet to be used to harvest like regular basil plants. But if you take a look, these right here are cotyledon or starter leaves of the basil plant. Okay, so if you take a look at that. So if we were going to use these as microgreens, we would say this is a time to harvest because they don't really have, if you look really close, they don't really have their mature leaves yet. Let me show you another example. Here is our parsley plant, and they did grow fairly nicely. They're a little bit leaning like from that other episode, but they're pretty good because I did take your advice and started to turn them. But if we take a look at these are the cotyledon leaves here, okay? And these that start to actually look like parsley, those are the true leaves, okay? Those are the mature leaves. So we would say that this is past the microgreen stage, yet these are ready to be microgreens that we could harvest and start to use. So one of the most interesting things about microgreens is the fact that when you eat them in this little tiny stage, they actually taste like their mature form. So that's a really cool fact about microgreens. Other facts about microgreens that are really helpful and really beneficial is the fact that they're really easy to grow, and we're going to grow some in this episode, at least plant some. They grow really fast. They have a quick turnaround time, meaning that they will grow between 7 and 14 days or sometimes 7 to 21 days before they harvest or they need to be harvested. So that's pretty quick. It's a maximum of like 3 weeks, and then you get plants that you can use and you can eat. Other things is it's pretty inexpensive. We're going to be using these small takeout containers to grow a whole batch of them that we could use in different kinds of foods, some salads, garnishes. We can supplement certain things. People put them in like smoothies and stuff. So they're really easy to do. And because they're not very expensive, we can actually, if we make a mistake or don't have a great harvest, which happens sometimes, we can start over and it's no big deal. One other really important benefit of microgreens is the fact that because they're in this juvenile or toddler stage, they are packed with nutrients. Okay, and this is going to be one of the questions that I'm asking you is, why is it that these have a concentrated level of nutrients? Think about what is still a part of the plant structure. Think back to seed anatomy, and I did already mention it already, that this baby leaf, not quite the true leaf, has a special name. And when it's in its seed form, ready to grow, that part of the seed provides all the energy and nutrients that the plant needs. So keep that in mind for the question. So there are so many different types of microgreens that you can use. There are extensive or long lists online that you can look up if you wanted to do this. I'm going to provide you with a list. You have to make sure that you double check the list. You can't just use anything. So for instance, tomato is a very dangerous one to use. Tomato leaves are not something that human beings should eat. So please keep that in mind. Make sure you check first. So I'm going to provide you with a list. So the list is going to be for two reasons. One, in case you want to try it at home because they are so easy to do. And two, because I want you to weigh in and tell me what kinds we should plant here in the virtual garden. So I'm going to give you a list. It's going to be you get to vote for one, and then we'll take a bunch of the highest voted ones and we will plant them here. Okay, so we're going to do an example today. So first thing, we're going to take one of these containers, and it was recommended that we use dark containers to cut down on algae and mold growth. So one funny thing is that instead of moistening the soil really well, what was recommended in the microgreens was to take water and add it right to the bottom of the tray. So I'm going to only add maybe about, maybe a quarter of an inch of water. And then I'm going to take my soil, place it in, okay, make sure I'm breaking up the chunks. Okay, and a funny thing that's important for microgreens is that we need to make sure that the soil is really leveled. So we're going to be using that famous word from episode 1, I think it was, that I've used before. It begins with a T. Can you say it? Tamping. So it was recommended in one of the videos that I watched that you take like a wooden block and you tamp around to make sure that everything is even and flat. I went down, to my husband's workshop and I asked him for some wood, and then I ended up, because my container is circular, I took a circular top of, this is like a spray, some kind of spray. So I just took the top and I'm going to tamp it down, not being really forceful because that's what tamping means, and then take a look at that, nice and flat. Okay? So the next thing is to decide on the seeds. In this episode, we're going to use good old radishes. So radish is a really easy one, and they germinate really quickly, as we all know, especially from episode 6 in your research. So in this case, radishes are considered to be a medium-sized seed with medium and small seeds. So here's an example of small seeds. Can you see that? Teeny tiny, that's tons of celery seeds, teeny tiny. With medium and small seeds, you do not need to pre-soak them. But with something like peas, these are pea seeds, they recommend that you soak them in water, plain water, for at least 8 hours, but it's really recommended to do it for 24 hours. So we are not going to plant these today, we're going to wait. So you just take a glass, it doesn't have to be made of glass, but take a cup or a glass, add water, and that's it. Let it sit there for 24 hours. Until they kind of will start to swell and their seed coats will start to break open. All right, so we're gonna take our radishes, and all they recommend that you do is just sprinkle them. Use your hands to spread them out. Okay, I'm gonna even take some more seeds. Okay, probably 2 packs, maybe 3. Sprinkle them all around, and I'll show you this in 1 second. And just make sure they're not, as best you can, not laying on top of each other. I think 2 packs works pretty well. Okay, I'll show you this. All right, take a look at that. See how they're all spread around? Okay, next thing. You are going to take the tamper, okay? They recommend not using your hands in this case of tamping because your hands are not flat surfaces, okay? So you're gonna tamp. So you could use anything. You could use the back of another container like this, okay? And you just tamp around, not too heavy, okay? I'm not using all my weight. Like I said, you could also use the bottom of another container and use that to tamp down also, something of the same size. Okay, next step, one of our favorite, is the squirt bottle. And I have my assistant with me here. Could you get that squirt bottle that's right over there? I was not prepared. Thank you. Okay, and then we're gonna take the squirt bottle. Ooh, you gotta turn it on first. And you're gonna spray generously all over. Okay, make sure that's in there. Okay, Now, something interesting about the microgreens. Once you've tamped them down, all right, and the reason that we're tamping them down is because we want them to have really good contact so that their roots will know to grow down. Okay, they'll have contact with the soil or the medium, whatever you're using. Some of the videos that I watched on this had recommended coco coir, which we have used in class before, but here we're just using the regular soil mix, which is also okay to use. So you want to push that down, okay, give that a nice tamp, and I'm actually going to use the, I'm going to spray a little more, and I'm going to use the back of this to tamp down one more time. Give it a nice push. Okay. Oops. See that? No problem. Okay. So we want to make sure that happens. But what's interesting is with this, we are not going to put any more soil on top. That's it. Okay? That's the way it's going to stay. And that's done. We need to do nothing else. No major hands getting dirty, maybe a little bit, but that's it. And now we just wait our 7 to 14 days before we can start to harvest. So, questions for you this week. Question 1 is going to be for you to vote, and I'm going to list, here we are, all of the different types. Over here, all the different types. Okay, so you are going to have this list in a Google form, and you are going to vote for which type of seeds we should use for our microgreens. Second question is, what is that seed part, thinking back to seed anatomy, what is the seed part that is providing the energy and the nutrients that is still attached and still a part of the plant body or plant structure that's providing these microgreens with so much concentrated or packed in nutrients? That's question 2. And then question 3 is to go on to and do another flip grid for me and to give me your opinion on microgreens. Tell me one benefit, one thing that you learned from this video, and any other comments that you have about the video and microgreens. Also, if you're deciding to try some at home, I would love to hear that too. So put that in your flip grid. All right, guys, I can't wait to see your videos. We will definitely get back together so that you can see the progress of our microgreens, and hopefully we'll be doing some taste testing. I can't wait to see your flip grids. Bye, guys.